For centuries, the Roman Empire glittered in history books as a symbol of power, order, and civilization. Marble statues, grand amphitheaters, disciplined legions, and powerful emperors. This is the Rome that the world celebrates. But behind the shining armor and marble pillars existed a world far darker, more brutal and more mysterious than most people realize. Ancient Rome was not only an empire of laws and legions. It was an empire built on secrets, blood, fear, and shadows. These are the stories they never taught in school. Tourists today walk through the Colosseum imagining heroic gladiator battles. They picture warriors fighting for glory, roaring crowds, and noble combat. But the reality was far more horrifying. Beneath the Colosseum lay a massive underground maze called the Hypogeum. Few people know what truly happened there. Dark corridors, wooden cages, pulleys, iron levers, chains, traps, and secret tunnels filled the underground darkness. The air smelled of blood, sweat, and fear. Gladiators rarely wanted to fight. Most were slaves. Many were dragged down in chains, knowing they would die before sunrise. Some spent the night carving messages into the walls, prayers, curses, promises of revenge, or desperate letters to loved ones they'd never see again. But the darkest secret of the Hypogeum was not the gladiators. It was the animals. Lions, tigers, wolves, bears, panthers. Hundreds of exotic animals were kept in cramped cages without food. When their cages were opened, they raced into the arena starving, confused, and furious. Some animals were drugged, some blinded, some tortured so they'd attack anything that moved. It was not entertainment. It was controlled terror. Romans cheered, and beneath their feet thousands had died. Not all Roman emperors died in battle. Many died at the dinner table. One of the empire's darkest secrets was a woman named Locusta, Rome's most feared poison master. She served emperors like a shadow assassin, creating poison so perfect, so silent, that victims often died smiling. She had a secret garden on the outskirts of Rome where she grew forbidden plants, deadly nightshade, strychnine, hemlock, and toxic mushrooms. She tested her poisons on slaves, criminals, and animals. It was said she could kill a man in minutes or make him suffer for days, depending on what the emperor wanted. Her most infamous act was for Empress Agrippina and her son Nero. Nero wanted to become emperor, but his stepbrother Britannicus was in the way. Locusta prepared a poison that tasted like water. When Britannicus drank it, he collapsed instantly at a royal banquet. People thought he had choked. Nero smiled. Locusta became rich, and Rome whispered her name in fear. School books rarely mention that emperor. Nero had a talent for cruelty that crossed into madness. When a massive fire destroyed much of Rome, rumors said Nero had ordered it. To silence the accusations, he blamed Christians, a small and unpopular group at the time, but he didn't just blame them. He tortured them. Every night in his palace gardens, Nero held parties. Wine flowed, music played, guests laughed, and lining the pathways were human torches, Christians tied to stakes, covered in oil and set on fire. Their bodies were used as lanterns to light the emperor's evening entertainment. This is the Rome that school books never describe. Rome once had a 12-year-old emperor named Elagabalus. At first, he was seen as a harmless boy, but power corrupted him faster than anyone expected. He forced senators to watch him dance half-naked in the palace. He married a Vestal virgin, something forbidden and shocking. He held large banquets where he released live snakes onto guests for fun. But his strangest and darkest obsession was human sacrifice. Elagabalus believed his god demanded blood. Some nights people simply disappeared from the streets of Rome. Criminals, slaves, beggars, or anyone unlucky enough to be alone. Their bodies were found days later drained of blood. The emperor was only a boy. Rome never forgot the terror. There was once a book in Rome so dangerous, so powerful, that the Senate ordered every copy burned. It was called the Sibylline Books, an ancient collection of prophecies. According to legend, the goddess Apollo protected the book, and it contained predictions of the rise and fall of empires. The darkest part? Many prophecies came true. The books predicted the death of Caesars, the Great Fire of Rome, invasions from the north, plagues that would wipe out cities. Priests guarded the books inside the Temple of Jupiter. Only a few could read them, and when the temple burned, the books disappeared forever. Some say the Romans destroyed them, deliberately because they predicted the empire's end. While Rome worshipped many gods, the emperors themselves held a secret belief. They thought they were becoming gods. Julius Caesar, Augustus, Caligula, Nero. Many believed they had divine blood. They built temples to themselves. Citizens were forced to burn incense in their honor. Refusing was a crime punishable by death. But behind these temples was a hidden ritual. At midnight, priests gathered in underground chambers lit by torches. They performed private ceremonies, where the emperor's spirit was invited into the world of the gods. Animals were sacrificed, sometimes people. The emperor's own blood was mixed with wine and offered to the gods. This ritual was forbidden to the public, because if the empire saw how emperors worshipped themselves, Rome would rebel. One of Rome's greatest mysteries is the disappearance of Legio. Sem Hispana, the 9th Legion. 10,000 Roman soldiers marched into Britain. None returned. No battle recorded, no mass grave found, no evidence of rebellion. Some believe they were ambushed and wiped out. Others say they were sacrificed by Celtic tribes in a giant ritual. And some whisper a darker theory. The 9th Legion tried to overthrow the emperor, so Rome erased them. Documents burned. Names deleted. Historians silenced. A legion that served Rome for 300 years vanished as if it never existed. The Vestal Virgins were respected priestesses who guarded Rome's sacred flame. They lived in luxury but followed strict rules. They could not marry. They could not have children. They had to remain pure for 30 years. Breaking the vow of purity was considered a crime against Rome. The punishment? Burial alive, because their blood could not be spilled. The Romans placed a Vestal in an underground chamber with a small amount of food and sealed it. The flame above ground continued to burn while the priestess died in darkness below. It was one of Rome's most horrifying rituals, hidden behind a mask of religion. Most emperors watched gladiators, but one emperor became one. Commodus, son of Marcus Aurelius, enjoyed killing gladiators and animals in the arena. He believed he was the reincarnation of Hercules. He forced Rome's richest families to watch him fight and cheer for him. Anyone who didn't was executed. But the truth behind his victories was darker. The gladiators were ordered not to harm him. Animals were weakened or tied down. Commodus killed slaves pretending to be gladiators. The emperor turned death into a performance. The Senate declared him a disgrace after his death. His statues were smashed. His name was erased. But the nightmares he left behind never disappeared. Rome's darkest secret was the one they hid the longest. The empire was dying from the inside. Corruption spread. Plagues wiped out millions. Emperors murdered each other for power. Armies rebelled. Food shortages created riots. Enemies attacked from all sides. But instead of fixing the problems, Rome threw more games, more festivals, more gladiator fights, more distractions. They believed the empire would last forever. But it didn't. In the year 476, the Western Roman Empire collapsed. Not with a spectacular battle. Not with a heroic last stand. Not with a legendary story. It simply fell apart, destroyed by its own secrets. History books show Rome as glorious, statues, soldiers, emperors, and victories. But true history is darker, more fragile, and more human than the textbook version. Rome teaches us that. No empire is too strong to fall. Power without responsibility becomes cruelty. Secrets can destroy nations. Even the greatest civilizations can crumble in silence. This is the Rome they never taught in school, and this is the Rome that shaped the world.